Moving to Oneness. Nourishing curiosity. Embracing differences. Becoming one.
So many beings are here right now to support you in trusting yourself, believing yourself, and acting on your intuition to move your body the way it wants and desires to move, to support you in moving optimally for yourself, for your own energy, but also in your surrounding, to move as one without restrictions and sensing anything around you. So this is a fun topic today, so stay tuned. I welcome you. I'm Meilin Ehlke, your host of the Moving to Oneness podcast. The sun is shining, summer is so going out and exploring yourself, that's invitation for me to you. And I have in the US sitting Nate. Hello, Nate. You're in Utah, if I remember correctly, right?
I am, Meilin. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, and you have a fascinating story. You have fascinating passion, what you're bringing to the world, to people, to optimize what I had just mentioned, to trust, to move without seeing and seeing all at the same time. But before we get there, I would love to ask you, what moved you to become so interested in supporting others, being their optimal self?
Well, I could tell you during my lifetime, and then there's also the before my lifetime began story. So I'll start with from my birth until this point. So when I was around 5 years old, my mother, this is back in the 1980s. So VHS, VCRs, a lot of people didn't have them. So she rented one. And from the video store, you could rent VCRs. And she would rent ninja movies and Star Wars. And my brother, Mike, and I, he's my business partner, we watched ninja movies and Jedi movies until the VHS tape would break. All we ever wanted to do was become a Jedi when we were young. And we grew up in a small town. So both of us, since we were not of the predominant religion that Utah, is famous for, we were the only people who weren't in our classes. So we came under a lot of bullying pressure for a long time, every day for a lot of years. So that was something where we knew and we learned from a young age what it feels like to be, say, at a disadvantage around the people that you're with. So when I was around 13 years old, I started having spontaneous out-of-body projections. I would float up out of my body. I would roll over. I would see myself. And I had never read anything about OBEs or remote viewing or non-locality of consciousness. Obviously, I know I'm 13 years old. So I didn't know what was happening, but I knew that I wasn't dead. I could tell and sense that it wasn't dangerous. And it was also a way for me to escape in a kind of an abusive and painful daily life. And so when I was 15 years old and I got my first job and was able to earn my own money, the very first thing I ever bought was a book called Journeys Out of the Body by an author named Robert Monroe. And it helped me understand more of what was happening, of the not just the why, but also the how of the out of body experience. So I was already on a spiritual path spontaneously from my early teen years. And so when it goes farther back than that, though, because you can't tell this by looking at me, but on both sides of my family, I come from a long line of servant leaders, people who have been college educators in genetics, people who are in the medical field. My mom was a nurse for 43 years. And going back on my father's side, almost 1,000 years
Ooh,
to the
have a long
roots of
history.
Jewish mysticism. My brother, my family, we're direct descendants of the person who created the Kabbalah. So it's in our genes and our epigenes, our epigenetic code, to want to help people, but also to want to help them in energetic ways. So what we do now, helping people gain a new sense of sight, because we originally started this to help blind people, but now we've really come to realize that everybody is blind. Blind doesn't mean just that you cannot see with your eyes. It means that you cannot see what you cannot see. And for that, every human being has blind spots. And that's one thing that what we do helps people really awaken and see those blind spots for themselves, and then be able to take the best and highest action for themselves. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. You brought memories also back for me. The ninja movies, yes, I remember. I had the same combination. I mean, I remember the Jedi, the energy. I felt the truth that that is possible when I was seeing that. I think when we both were young, there were really not so many cartoons with magic. Now, if I remember watching my son with him cartoons, there was so much more on this topic of how you can use energy for yourself and for other things or for creation. And I had the same mix a little because of my name, Meilin, right? It's a Chinese name. I was looking always into the Asian history, stories, culture, and it brought me also really quick into the Japanese. And there was a story. I was with some guys in Nice learning French long time ago. And there we could go into a store and get ninja stars.
Yeah.
And use them not as a weapon. So for me, it was interested how can they use so their body and move so in a way gracefully and in a way that we are not used to. And for me, it was never like a saga. Yeah, it was not a legend. I felt that there is more to it, and it is there to be learned. And yeah, and also when you spoke there, I thought I want to tell everyone to write your book, because without books, you, I, and many of us who are more on the spirit mystical side, we need those books when we're young, when we are trying to look for ourselves, because our cultures, many of our cultures, not all of them, let's say that, but maybe I would say more the Western culture, we don't speak enough about these sides in our daily life. And so, everyone out there, if you're someone who carries information, do write it down. Bring a new book into the world, especially for the young generation that is rising now, to give them an understanding of themselves. So, hint to you and me, we both have to write too. Yeah, so I also love that you have this ancient lineage, but that it means also you have this ancient well, Ursprung, I would say, even the German word, the source of the wisdom, and that you're bringing that back. This is now the time where we support people in moving into their natural state, how we should be. And we'll probably speak about more stories during our conversation. And so, thank you to make us see again and see how in tune we can be. And we have been taught we have not to see, right? It's a way of blinding us of punting like the horse, right? It gets also the blinders that you don't look too much left, you don't look too much right. Luckily, that's also dissolving more for the younger generation. But it is still very dominant. And so I applaud you for your work and your desire to. It feels it's not even a transformation, because it's just, it feels like there is a cloud, like mist, and you're just blowing some wind in there, and it's taking away, so people have a view again, right? Oh, that's interesting. So whatever you're doing now and what you will be doing is just dissolving that strong, dense mist that at the beginning we needed to learn to move a little bit, but then to become free and see in new ways of what we're capable of. So talk a
I
little bit about
love that analogy of the wind. So as far as what we do, is that what you wanted me to talk on next? Yeah. So
and how you got to it. Maybe
Yeah.
I shouldn't jump. Let the listener know how you got, because there are two things, right? So you carry that lineage. Were you always aware of it? Were you taught, or is it now for you, if you look backwards and when you're observing yourself, you can see that?
Yes, that's a great question. Yeah, growing up, my father is Jewish, but my mother's not. So I did not grow up with the Jewish traditions. So it is in my genetics, but it's not actually in my faith of teaching from when I was young. So I don't know much about Judaism, a little bit, but not as much as if I had grown up in the culture. But looking forward, what we're doing, it's very interesting. Well, I'll get to what I was about to say in just one second, but always wanting to be a Nin Jedi, and then doing my research on our lineage and finding out where our lineage is on my father's side, and then coming across what I call a synchrodestiny. So not a synchronicity. Yes, it is a synchronicity, but a synchrodestiny is where it happens and it changes your whole life. And that's what happened with me and for me in 1998, where I had ordered a course out of Black Belt magazine that guaranteed me inner power in 2 weeks or I got my money back. And being a Westerner, I really wanted to have that without going through all the struggles and the time involved of, living in a monastery or a cave and meditating for hours a day and giving up most parts of the fun parts of life. And so I ordered this course, and it turned out to be, the course itself was a little pamphlet, and it was very good for recycling. There wasn't anything useful in it, but it did come with a tape, a VHS tape, and it showed an Indonesian documentary on martial arts. And I'd been involved in martial arts ever since I possibly could, which was around the 17 when I could actually drive and afford martial arts training for myself. And my brother had been involved for just as long, but he'd actually dived into the martial arts lifestyle and earned several black belts in different arts. And so when we saw Indonesian martial arts, we, first of all, were floored. We'd never seen anything like it before. But some of the demonstrations, like people breaking stone and steel, just barely touching them, really intrigued us. That, okay, maybe this inner power thing is going to be real. But one of the demonstrations was people who were wearing a very distinctive uniform, and they were running blindfolded through obstacle courses, or they were putting a hood on and blindfolding themselves and then putting a hood and drawstring, string around their neck, and then riding a motorcycle or driving a car through traffic in Indonesia. And if any of your listeners
a lot of wild traffic there.
And just, it's not a closed course, it's just commute. And then it showed military people who were shooting targets with guns out of people's hands. And it even showed a blind person doing a demonstration for the Sultan of Oman. And the Sultan's liaison was just gushing about how amazing this was, and it's going to change the world, and these people can do things that you or I couldn't do with our eyes open. And I thought it was a trick. Truth, I thought it was bull. I didn't think for a second that anybody could actually do that, because Superman doesn't really fly, and David Copperfield made the Statue of Liberty disappear, but it did come back, so he didn't really make it disappear. I thought it was a hocus pocus thing. But I watched this video a couple times because that was really cool. And the next day, the universe told me to pay attention. And the way that it got my attention, the way that I had manifested this synchrodestiny for myself, and the subsequent life path that it's led me on, was I decided on a whim to take a different route to work. And I stopped at a traffic light in front of the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind, which is one of the largest deaf and blind schools in the country, in America. And there was a woman getting ready to cross the street right in front of me with her guide dog, because she was blind. And when she got the signals to go, the dog did exactly what it was supposed to do. It started leading her across the street. However, it walked right at a light pole and then right around it, and she walked face first into this pole right in front of me. And I was thinking, oh my God, what if I was doing 50 miles an hour? I mean, this is a fast speed zone where we're at. I mean, it's what, 80 kilometers an hour, something like that. I wouldn't have had time to stop if that dog had just done that. And it really struck me right there. I wonder if those Indonesian people could help blind people here. Because I'm not, doing so much in the realm of out-of-body experiences, meditation, chakra development. I was not so ignorant that I didn't recognize that this was a sign that I should pay attention to. And so I didn't know how to find these people. So I took it upon myself to go to the county library and dive in and try to find out who were those people that I saw on that documentary. Because first, I'm still skeptical. I want to ask, is this really real? But something inside me just was like a burning desire that I had never met a blind person. I don't have any blind people in my family. I had no connection to the blind community, is what I'm saying. But I had this burning desire that I had to find out, can those people help blind people? I don't know why, but I'm supposed to help blind people. And so I went to the library and I did my research for 2 weeks to find out, because, on this documentary, it was, of course, in the Indonesian language. It was straight from Indonesia, and I don't speak Indonesian.
No.
And so I only understood 2 words, and those words were Merpati, Putih, which Merpati Putih means white dove in the Indonesian language. And so once I was able to find out that and to spell it right, then I found out that it was one of the largest martial arts organizations on the planet. But it was like the best kept secret in the world, because nobody had ever heard of it outside of Indonesia, because it was forbidden to train non-Indonesian people. Well, I wasn't interested in the training anyway. I'd been training in martial arts for years. So I was interested in helping them to get over here because A, I wanted to see it for myself. B, I knew that I had to do something to help them get a foothold and some traction here, because so I got a hold of this foundation, the Vibra Vision Foundation. And when I did, I found out that they had trained over 3,000 blind people, according to them. And they had been training the most elite special forces commandos in Indonesia in Vibra Vision, to the point where they skydive blindfolded with hoods on and pull at right altitude. They use it in live combat missions, and they use it for search and rescue because they can scan and sense and tell where survivors are under landslides, when volcanoes erupt and bury villages. They've been using this since the late 80s. So that right there lent a lot of credence and a lot of validity to what they're doing, because countries don't usually give their most elite soldiers unproven technologies that will get them hurt or killed. They just don't do it. It's really not in their best interest, right? Yes, exactly. So what happened then was I was able to contact the people there and find somebody who spoke English. And I and my brother Mike, we both sponsored the very first demonstration of Merpati Putih and Vibra Vision in the United States in 1999. And we met an Indonesian gentleman at the airport who just happened to be living in Salt Lake. And met this guy. He was an awesome person. And then we met the team. They got off the plane. This is back in the day where you could actually meet people at the jetway.
Yeah, I
This is
remember
pretty
that.
normal. Yeah. And when we got there and we found out he was this gentleman we met, he was a doctor in Indonesia, and he was getting his master's degree in speech language pathology at the University of Utah. And we're like, this is great. Cool. Indonesian people in Utah. Nice. But when they came here, they started training Mike and I in some of the basic aspects that we're now releasing online for people all over the world to be able to purchase and be able to incorporate in their life and make an immediate, drastic difference in their energy and in their health. Well, they started teaching us this, which had never been done for a non-Indonesian person. Well, we at the end, when they did the demonstrations of Vibravision, and they brought two blind people with them who were able to do anything that you and I can do, including drive my car, ride my bike around obstacles. They cooked for us. They could determine colors. They could read text off of your screen or off of a magazine. At this point in time, cell phones were like flip phones were still expensive, so we didn't have one. But so I couldn't do that. But now, people just read it off of their text message. And that really proved to us that we were onto something here, and we really wanted to help them as much as we possibly could. And then when they were about to leave, they said, okay, this man that you met at the airport, he's going to be your trainer. And we're like, wait a minute, what? What? Okay. Yes. Let's do that. We want to know what we're going to be helping people develop. And so we started off with the martial arts. So in Merpati Putih, we have 5 aspects. We have the martial arts forms, we have fighting, we have energy generation, chi generation, energy healing for ourselves and others. And then we have the multisensory ability to perceive without your eyes, called Vibra Vision. That's our trademark term for that. And it goes far beyond seeing without your eyes, though. So Merpati Putih is without a doubt the most comprehensive martial art we'd ever seen, because most martial arts don't incorporate inner power development. Healing is like for Reiki, and that's not necessarily a martial arts thing. And then to be able to see without your eyes to the point where blind people can actually function in a different way, and business people can make better decisions, and parents can make better connections with their children. I mean, it's just it's not unbelievable, because we've now proven it to medicine and science. So it's definitely believable, but it is definitely paradigm shifting for anyone and everyone who even gets a glimpse and a taste of it, because once you ring that bell, you can't go back. And then it becomes just like the out-of-body experiences were for me. Vibravision is for so many people. It opens a door you cannot come back from once you understand more of what your true nature is and your capability, that you want more, and you want to find out, what more can I do? How much more can I become? And the cool thing about it is Vibravision has that all in. You could never in 5 lifetimes get done and be bored with it, because there's always something new to develop and something new to become. So,
wow, I find this really interesting. This is something that has always fascinated me. One thing maybe I always knew you were speaking about, also when you were talking about the Ninja Jedi. I remember reading books where you had then speaking about the elves, right? And there were then these ancient elves, 1,000 years old. And I remember this one story where he asked his student to sit down and just to sense what is above, hear what is surrounding him, smell, right? These are things we're used to. But then he went further and said, so what is everything below you? Oh, it really got me to think, because what else is there? There's a whole universe below us. We never speak or sense. We barely, we barely walk even barefoot nowadays anymore. that we can feel the texture and the life that is below. So this really got me interested to just sit down and practice there and become more aware. And then also I myself, I have two things that always interested me. So once, because I have cerebral palsy, anything that makes me move better, I was always interested. And because I'm a channel, a physical channel, I've experienced moments where I can walk like a normal person, no limping, no bending. And then I thought, oh, how is that possible? Or then energy, so I was also interested. That's why I love this conversation. I want to learn and converse with you much more. I was also lucky that people came into my life, or as I said, one takes the right book, or also martial arts. I learned then from the Koreans, right? How the energy is used, and that even a martial arts is more like dancing or moving energy through the body and extending it out, and it's for every age, right? We're taught so much that martial arts is just from the fighting, and I think most of the delivery, the books, the history we've been reading, I would say maybe is really on the combat oriented. But the source of all of that is really how to optimize energy within your body and optimize how to move energy out to others, as you said, healing, and for human beings or also for nature. And to move quicker. If we talk also to be so stagnant, fixated beings, right? To feel tight, to be afraid. All of us, many of us are so. And this was always exercises where you open up, where you expand, where you feel every cell in your body, and playing and getting to know yourself. And so I love that you were talking about those 5 pillars, that there's so much more. It's bringing back our natural state. We're able to do it. And I think what it is, while one wants to get more, and or for me, what everything has to do with energy, I want to learn more, right? The sorceress within me. And but it is because our body remembers. And you said that also, you don't want to do back, you can't go back. Because it's like in a normal sport, right? Or in even healing, when you do a physical healing, the moment the body remembers is more optimal, where it needs less energy, right? It will keep that, unless you're really tired or something is going on. So, and with your Vibra Vision, and that's why it is for everyone and all ages. I love that. And used for, if for the blind really to move, but also for children to learn to move better, businesses, or for rescue, right, to sense where people are. That this is what we normally should be able to do all along, and we have been told we can't. And this is now the time where you and many others, they come from all continents, from all the cosmos, right? Many star nations come to help us remember what we already know. So we know it, we can all do it. It's just this remembering or reactivating those emotions, movements. And so that's why I just love this, and especially that also that it's now opening up, that our cultures are seeing other cultures in a different eye, right? Not so much as in history books, but we see now the world again is ooh, what don't I know about the other person and their culture? What have they that maybe we had too, but we have forgotten, or it was moved aside 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years, 100 years ago. And only by looking globally around the world, who still carries this ancient wisdom, which, we always say it's new. It's not new. It's just beautifully. Talk a little bit about the art and also maybe a little bit about what it heals.
Yeah. Well, as far as the art is concerned, it was originally the breathwork was developed by the Sultan of Central Java in the 16th century, so about 500 years ago. And from our understanding, granted, I wasn't there, not physically, but from our understanding is that he left Indonesia for some time and went to India. And when he came back, he had these different body postures. He had these different breathing techniques that would help to increase the energy in the body. But then over centuries of refining this within the royal family, from the father to the prince or to the princess, the fighting system, the martial art, was actually developed. It's one of only two martial arts, traditional martial arts in the world, that were developed by women. And it was his granddaughter. And so then she continued on with the energy work as well as the fighting lineage. And she had, obviously passed this knowledge down, and it continued to be refined to the point where then people started, seeing without their eyes, and they would use that for basically it was to keep the royal family, to have something that nobody else had. So to keep their power, you play your cards close to your chest to make sure that you're going to be able to be the person who is still on top. And so they kept it within the palace walls until 1963. And in 1963, they released it to the Indonesian public because at that time, and there's a movie about this called The Year of Living Dangerously, and that's with Mel Gibson and Sigourney Weaver. It was documentary, well, not documentary, but it's a movie about the rebellion and the coup d'etat in Indonesia, where over 500,000 people were killed by the military in 6 months, and by each other. So 500,000 people. So the Merpati Putih knowledge was released to help people in Indonesia have a greater sense of their community, have better connection of energy between themselves, to understand that we're all the same and to stop hurting each other. But if you need to defend yourself, here's a self-defense system in conjunction with all of that to help you protect yourself. So it was really always about self-protection. That's why it was released, and self-advancement. But they had never allowed a non-Indonesian person to learn it until me and my brother Mike in 1999. And it was because we showed that we were willing to do whatever it took to bring this art to America, to help blind people, which now it's not just blind people, it's also mind people. It's all people, because we're all blind and we all have a mind. So this is something that works across the board for anyone. But the healing, this is where it gets a bit different than, say, Reiki, where a lot of healing out there, there's an attunement process, and then people are able to channel energy through their body into someone else. And this is cosmic energy or angel energy, whatever you might want to call it. With Merpati Putih and with Vibra Vision, the difference is we become the battery. We're not channeling from some other source. We're creating more electricity, more electromagnetism in ourselves, and then having an ample amount and being able to direct that with consciousness into someone else or into ourselves to help us heal faster or help them heal faster. And every single person, and I'm talking across the board, for 22 years of teaching this, every single person who has had an accident, who has had a surgery, has healed in half the time with our students. And their doctors have remarked about this. What are you doing? You shouldn't heal this fast. There's no way. And they're like, well, I do these breathing exercises and meditations, and I use my mind and my energy, the energy that we are, to rebalance where there's disharmony or dysfunction in the body, even if that's a shoulder surgery or reconstruction of the pelvis, from a motorcycle accident. We've had numerous cases like that. And we've even had some people, and I won't make any medical claims about this, but we've had quite a few people who have had different types of cancer, have it go away without chemo or radiation or surgery. And in Indonesia, one of our counterparts has been doing case studies on people with stage 4 brain and lung cancers and is finding complete remission within 6 months of using these breathing exercises. So this is not just hyperventilate and get high. There's a lot of breath techniques out there, and that's what they really focus on. Is let's hyperventilate and hypersaturate our body with oxygen. But the Merpati Putih breath work is based on hypoxia, which 2 years ago there was a Nobel Prize in medicine and physiology won by 3 scientists who have discovered amazing healing benefits by us being in a low oxygen environment for a certain amount of time. So we do a lot of breath holding, not hyperventilation. It's hypoventilation. And now science is really starting to catch up with what we're doing and what they've been doing for centuries. And now we're just making it available for all through our academy, our online academy, and also through our immersions where people come and travel to us. And so we're really finally being able to see the impact that we've been working for 22 years on. And as my soul partner, she says, it took you 22 years to become an overnight success. And it's so true, but humanity and consciousness of humanity was not ready 20 years ago for this to actually go as big as we're going to be taking it and helping as many millions of people as we're going to be helping. And COVID has been a very big part of that because it did force us to pivot our business away from teaching little kids martial arts and all these other 5 different programs and taking all of our time and really doing Vibra Vision training just as a pilot project and as a passion project for blind people to now being the thing that we do. That is what we do. And that was always our mission. And it took 22 years to come back to it, but we're back. And it is just, it's amazing the response that we're getting. And from the medical community, from the neuroscience and physics community, and from the meditation and the athletics community, because wow, this breath technique for professional athletes is unreal, what it does for their stamina and also their recovery from injury and also recovery just from even hard workouts. It's really, if you have a body, this is for you.
I love that because, I'm all about embodying our own our beauty, right? Embodiment, I call it sometimes.
Yeah.
But to embody our knowledge and to say, I'm very not important, that's the wrong word, but I have an act in my life and I'm really the one and the only one who is doing it. Yes, we're doing collaboration with many others in this cosmos. Yeah, but I like you, I invite people to not always wait for guidance, but to make decisions, to act on our own knowledge. This is important, and I like that how you said that we also are important in setting the intention or even already the intent to create anything within our body. And also, I love science is now catching up to all the shamanic and the healing way, the ancient ways, let's call it this way, of what they've all known, but because of a certain time period and when all our books were written, medical books, and that is still holding a little on the mindset of the way of thinking, that we are able to heal, right? Every time if you go to bed and don't take time to fall asleep, then you go already into a self-healing phase. Our body knows what to do. That's what I said at the beginning. Start to listen to it. And about you, what I love. So there were 2 things while you were speaking. One is they sensed that you have a big vision and mission on this planet, and you yourself went through a healing, saying in a way, trying to adapt first, right? Do it as others, and now you're at the point where you're saying, no, I made it an okay thing. But now you can say, no, I'm doing it more. I'm going to unleash it really the way it is and is supposed to be, right? You have minimized it, but also you needed to grow into, I don't know, even the word grow is maybe not, but to emanate out into the world who you are and taking on that stance, even, now that you're able to look back, knows more about your own history, and also seeing what you're creating in the future, that this is the only way. And yes, thank you to COVID. I often believe that it makes us think. It all makes us think, what do we do best? Why are we here on this planet? What is it for us to do? And I think there too, it is for us to go into that why we're here and to live it. And not next year or in 2 years. It is really to pull it out of ourselves right now. And maybe you have to go into a contemplated state for a while. You pass that, right? To take the time to really see what it is. And yeah, everyone, you do know what you love to do, and then ask others to help you to do better what you love to do. And Nate, and that is for you, and you're lucky you had your brother, and now you have your part, bringing out more where you can be who you are more and more and feeling comfortable. And so it's also a sign of the time that we can be fully more and more who we are, like when I was born, children with cerebral palsy, or you were a little awkward, you were still put into a loony bin. My mom was always afraid of that, right? So there was a lot of non-conversation, also dreaming, or we would say that we see things, right? They would put us away. And these are now different times. And so that's why your work that you're bringing to everyone in a beautiful online version, right? Connecting all of us again in the world to you, to the Indonesian work, but also to what we are. So what is your vision for the future?
That's exactly what I'm working on right now with my brother Mike and a bunch of different coaches and advisors, because things are moving so rapidly. What I thought my vision is just a drop in the bucket of what's happening. So I would say that I would like, big vision within the next year. I would like to help another 10,000 people with our online courses, people who cannot travel here to Utah to do one of our immersions. Within the next 5 years, I would like to help over 1 million people through these breath technologies. And then as far as our in-person immersions, we're coming out with a new program where usually we've been doing 5-day immersions, and it's a deep dive 14+ hour day. It's decades of training into days, because in Indonesia, they still don't train non-Indonesians. So if you went there, they still wouldn't train you. We're one of the only places on the planet that will actually train people from any walk of life, any nationality, any religion. And so with that in mind, we have 5-day immersions, but not everybody can take 5 days off. So we're developing a 2-day weekend workshop that will give people the tools and experiences to know, number one, they can heal themselves. Number two, they're more than their physical body. Number three, they can perceive and trust their intuition on a level they never thought possible before, no matter what other training they've done. And so those will be coming soon in 2022. So that way people can come in just for the weekend. And so those are our 3 main things that we're working on right now, as well as scientific research with some of the top neuroscientists and physicists in the world that's going on right now. And so we are accepting donations for our foundation, where people like to donate for the scientific research and also to sponsor blind people to come and train and do this. So you could tell I have my hands pretty full. So within 5 years, having 1 million people learn at least some of the Merpati, Putih, and Vibra Vision breathwork techniques for their own health. And in 5 years, have trained at least 2,000 people in workshops. And right now we cap them at a maximum of 24 people. And once in a while, we'll extend that to 30. So we do them small, intimate groups, because it requires a lot of personal attention from trainers. So we make sure everybody gets that deep involved, loving attention for their progress. And that's one reason why we have literally a 100% mind blown satisfaction rate with people
Yeah.
who come and do our 100%.
I bet so. If there's
Yeah.
anyone that dedicated to intensify their experience of energy, you're the right person, and to bring it further than out and support you out into the world. So yeah, where or how I should say can people connect with you? Because I
Well,
can put that also
yeah.
then in the show notes.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Well, I sent over my LinkedIn and my Facebook and Instagram and the different social media. So please follow us, see what we're up to, because it's changing all the time. We just hired a new social media team, so we'll have even more updates than we did before. And then also going to our website at vibravision.com. So that's vibravision.com. And that can tell you about our weekly class, or not weekly classes, our online offerings that people can anywhere in the world can do. And then our immersion classes, which is really our flagship right now. That's the thing that we're really most focused on. But that right now is only for American and Canadian citizens. We're working on access for the EU and
Yeah, you have to
the
come
UK.
over here then.
Yeah. That sounds fantastic. I have a lot of interest from Germany,
Yeah.
lot of interest from Germany, Germany, France, and the UK. Those are the three main countries that we've had the most interest from. And so when it comes to Europe, I think that either Berlin or London will be the two first places that we go.
Yes, yes. So it's really interesting. I did a peace project with friends, concert in March, and I remember we had a woman giving us into. So Berlin is really also a place of peace. It carries peace codes, and the white dove, right, is in many cultures is the bird not resembling, the symbol of peace, right? The symbol of peace, and peace is coming closer and closer. So that will be very interesting. I also wanted to let the audience know I've experienced and seen. There was once at the. It was called an Olympics. I can't remember the name. You know, my son was tiny, so it must have been 14 years ago. I had him. I even took him along. It was practicing on teaching children, for example, to look at the screen for a second and then later be asked again what they've seen. They were taught to read blindfolded newspapers or even see the colors in an envelope. So through an envelope, they couldn't see it, and also to taste, to sense what kinds of liquid they had below, if it was milk, apple juice, or water. And children are so fast in learning this. It's much more difficult for adults. But so I also like your version of teaching that everyone can approach it, and it doesn't matter even any age. Everyone. I remember when I was doing Aikido as a student, and the teacher that came up from Florida shared the story that he had a woman in his group. She was 85 and had started, and she said she could overthrow many men because she believed so much in her own energy, she didn't even have to touch them. You know, she was tiny and barely muscle, right? When we think about young athletes, we think about, a little bit of Schwarzenegger, all these muscle packs.
Yeah, right.
And it's not needed. So play everyone with your energy. Become curious. There is so much more, and we're supposed to move with ease and use energy from everything existing, right? Once upon a time, they moved from, this may interest you, Nate, from Köln here in Germany all the way down to Africa in 8 days, because now we say, no, you can't walk more than 20 kilometers, right?
Yeah.
But it's only because we were told those. You have to let yourself be pulled by energy. You give energy, you can be pushed by energy, right?
Sure.
So there is a way, and
Absolutely.
that's also how we once upon a time moved on this globe around much faster, and we were so much more
Yeah.
mixed. And we have to go back to the history, and that's the other layer that I see what is happening. If we become so much more aware, if we become so much more open, we look at the whole world, the whole existence with new eyes, with
That's right.
new thought process. The communication will start to be different, right? So it brings all these other things we can't even fathom now at the moment or understand. And I sense this is all in your work as well, as you also start speaking more freely about it and sharing much more what is deep within you, and all the wisdom that you carry. And also I see you like an extreme igniter and speed. You're going to create so much speed, and I can't wait to see all of this. I have to invite you back and to
I'm
talk.
looking forward to it.
Yeah.
In fact, interesting you were talking about children because we didn't really cover that. But a business advisor who's he's a very progressive CEO for many, many businesses. I spoke with him yesterday, and he's like, what you do, because he just went through our immersion just like last week. And he's like, what you do should be mandatory K through 12 in every school in the world in one generation. You could change all of humanity in one generation. If this was K through 12 and this energy work and meditation, less violence, healthier people, more energy aware, it would change everything in the world. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So that's not within my 5-year vision to have it in K through 12 education throughout the world.
Why not? It can happen this fast.
Let's just say that's my 6th year.
I love that. I love that. But this is so interesting. I invite also, again, everyone who, many of us, when we do spiritual conscious work, whatever, we do it without our children. And early ago, and in some lucky cultures, the whole family, all ages are invited. And
Absolutely.
It's not so separated and segregated. So I invite everyone, if you have any tools, teach them already. Do them in front of your children. Don't do it when they're in school. Do your meditation. Play them. If you do rituals, if you do yoga, if you do martial arts, interact. Your children will love you, first of all, so much more for it. Use it when you play with them. Ask them questions, what they see or how they sense energy. That's a whole, we can talk about that for hours.
Oh yeah.
I have to let you go. And everyone, please invite your children, and at the same time, ask all of your elders what they have experienced. So this wisdom does not disappear either. Write it down, bring it to the world, integrate it into your body, and share it also again with your children. Nate, it was so lovely to have you here. I love what is going to happen. I sense it, and many of us who are listening and watching will sense it too, what you're bringing, and your love for all of us. This is really it, right? Your love for all of us. And that you took the time to share this with me. And I'm going to see you, I know that too, here in Germany one day.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
And if I'm not on your side earlier, but I sense that you're here. And thank you for sharing that and being part of the Moving to Oneness podcast. Any last sentence to the world?
Yes. First of all, my gratitude. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a blessing. It's an honor to be here. So, very simple. You are more, explore more, do more, and be more. Because there is no limit. Only the things that we limit ourselves by. So enjoy your unlimited, unapologetic you, and becoming more than you ever thought possible, because it's every single time you turn around the corner, You're not the same person as you were 1 minute ago. So every single moment you have the opportunity to be more and reinvent yourself. So enjoy the process of being human and enjoy the process of your own personal evolution.
Beautiful words. So everyone, act on it, take his advice, do it playful whenever you feel to do it, wherever you are in the world. Do join the Facebook group Moving to Oneness. There you can talk then with Nate as well. All the notes how to connect with him are in the notes, and or connect with me myself or with Vibra Vision with Nate directly. He is lovely to speak to, as you've just seen and heard. And thank you for listening to the Moving to Oneness podcast. I'm Meilin, your host, and I wish you a wonderful time. Goodbye.